Hello and welcome to the session. I am Akshay Kumar, working in the School of Computer and Information Technology, and I'll be discussing with you about the program Certificate in Information Technologies course, that is Introduction to Information Technology. Now this is a very important course because it talks about information and its technology in a nutshell. So let us try to see what exactly this particular course is going to cover in details. First of all, what are the objectives of this particular course? Well, to define the objective, let us try to read a particular quote which says, technology makes it possible for people to gain control over everything except over technology. It was stated by John Tudor. Now that's a very important quote. Why? Because technology makes it possible for people to gain control over everything. Yes, today we are able to control almost all walks of life. Whatever we want to do, we can use technology in any of the things. We want to study, we have technology. We want to do banking, we use technology, right? We want to do a meeting, we use technology. But what we cannot do with technology, some of the things which definitely require some kind of logistics. For example, we cannot transfer a physical product, but yes, technology is very, very useful in transporting that particular product from a particular place to another place. So technology is being used, but may not be the computer-based technology in that particular sense. All right. So what we are not able to be, we are not comfortable most of the time with the technology, but still it is possible for us to do everything by using that particular technology. One particular thing which is coming out of this particular statement is that the technology should be easy to use. If we are going for a technology which is easy to use, we will be able to gain a lot of control on our day-to-day behavior, day-to-day things which we want using that particular technology. So keeping that particular thing in mind, one of the most important technology which we must be learning is information technology. Therefore, we have decided the objective of this particular course going to be, it talks about basic information about information technology, like what information technology is. So we will be discussing about information and how it can be used, how technology can be used to impart information. Then we have talked about information and information systems in this particular course, where you will be discussing what is the importance of various information systems within an organization. Then role of IT in different fields like businesses, right? Businesses, governance, education, medicine. So some of these things have been discussed in this particular course, where you will be discussing about like how it can be utilized in medicine, how it can be utilized for education purposes, and so on and so forth. And the role of management information system. It's very, very important. Like management information systems are part of the organizations. And without management information systems today, information are not able to take intelligent decisions. So you should be learning about what a management information system can do and how you can use those management information system in an organization. Then some newer tools like embedded systems, right? They are very, very useful these days. We are talking about embedded system all the time, right? You will be talking about IoTs today, but the basis of all these technologies, embedded systems. Computer vision. Now these days computer vision has become one of the most important one. It is used for many, like GPS and all those kinds of things today are used for finding out where people are, the movement of the people, and so on and so forth. So it has become an important tool, and this is what we will be discussing in this particular course. So let us go slightly deeper into the course content. The course consists of 4 blocks. Well, these 4 blocks are, from the IGNOU's perspective, a block is equivalent to 30 hours of work, right? So that is how it is divided into blocks, and block is divided into unit, and a unit is of roughly 8 to 10 hours of work. So each unit will be around 7 to 8 hours of work which you have to do, which as far as study workload is concerned, overall study workload, which includes the video and everything. Okay. Now block 1 is on elements on information technology. Now these elements basically can be like what are the different components as well as what are the various issues related to technology, right, information technology. So, the first unit, right, so it is basically basic terminology which we will be discussing with you that is used in ICT, information and communication technology. First unit is about attributes of information technology, where we will be defining data, information, knowledge, and very important component, wisdom. Right. So, these are going to be very, very important from our point of view to understand this particular thing. We are surrounded by data all the time. I mean, you go to any organization, huge amount of data is available, and today if we talk about technology, huge big data, I mean this particular term is there, like big data which is heterogeneous in nature is available in abundance. Now, how that particular data can be processed, right? Now, that has become a major issue. However, we won't be talking about big data in this particular course, but basic data and how that basic data can be looked into and how we can extract some useful things out of that particular data. Then we will be differentiating between data and information and knowledge. This is a very important component which I think one of the session is completely devoted for this particular topic, where we will be defining how data, information and knowledge, what these components are and how they are different from each other. Then we will be describing the quality and value of information. Now, quality and value actually are very, very important in the context of information, for the simple reason that if quality of information is bad, then you are bound to take incorrect decisions, right? And incorrect decisions are not the ones which you would like to take for your organization, because ultimately it may suffer from major losses if that happens. So, quality and value, whether it is useful for the information and how to determine the value. So, we will be talking about these components. Then describe various storage technologies to store information. Now, that is because we have information, but how it is stored. Right. So, this particular unit will be talking about these components. It also discusses about ICT and digital divide, which happens to be unit number 2, where we describe the information and communication technology, ICT, and it discusses about what various things are there as far as ICT is concerned. Then discusses about advantages in an organization, how ICT can be utilized. So, communication is very, very important along with the information these days. If you are not communicating, probably or you are not using communication technology, you are missing a major part, but all of us are using, all of us are having mobile phones today, and 70 to 80% people are having mobile smartphones, right. So, we all know the importance of information as well as communication technologies, but we will be discussing in some more details as far as this unit is concerned. Then we will be explaining the concept of digital divide. Now, that information, the problem with the technology is that many a times it leads to a situation where some people have access to the technology and some people do not have access to the technology, and that can create a divide. And we need to fulfill that particular divide. We don't want that divide to happen, because today if we are having that kind of a problem, we are in some kind of trouble, right. Everybody has tried to grow, so this digital divide should not exist technically, and that why we are teaching this particular thing, so that you do not fall into the trap of this particular thing. Then this particular unit explains the reason and impact of digital divide, and basically so that you don't become victim of this particular situation. And unit 3 of first block, in fact, happens to be elements of information technology, where we will be discussing about cyberspace and cyber crimes. This has become the necessity for today. As we are moving towards the digital technologies, right, that is the cyberspace. We are doing most of the activity cyberspace. Now, the word cyberspace actually has not been a technical term. It came from movies and art films, and it came to digital world then, right. Cyberspace is the space in which we are working through internet and all those technologies, right. So, cyberspace and cyber crimes is a very important concept, and it has been discussed in this particular unit. It defines the cyberspace, it defines the digital identity. It is very, very important that you know who you are, right. You know you are, but then digitally who you are, and people should know the information is coming from you only. So, that kind of digital identity has become very, very important, because these days there are many cases where identity thefts are becoming becoming common, and this is something which you should learn and should avoid. Then it describes cyber crimes, what are the various issues related to cyber crimes, and then cyberspace architecture, which basically defines what kind of organization and architecture as far as cyberspace is concerned. So this is in nutshell what block 1 tries to cover. Block 2 is basically IT in action. So once you have gone through the basics, it is very, very important that you learn from examples. And that is what is the philosophy of block 2. That is, the role of ICT can be made useful for user of an application. That is what we want to do. How it is going to be useful for you, how we can utilize it in day-to-day life. Okay, and 4 application in fact we have chosen in this particular case, which we will be dealing with you, describing those 4 application. The first one is the e-commerce, and it is going to be one of the most important application. Many of you might already have started doing the activity of e-commerce. You must be selling or buying from internet, right? So using various websites. So it basically defines the concept of e-commerce, what exactly an e-commerce is. It lists advantages and disadvantages so that you can conceptualize those advantages, disadvantages. There are definitely disadvantages of e-commerce also, right? But then you have to be, looking for those kinds of disadvantages, and you should be ready for those kinds of things. And not only ready, you should be taking action so that those kinds of risks or disadvantages doesn't harm you much, right? Then we have, this course describes the different kinds of e-commerce technology, like business to business and all those like business to customer, customer to customer, those kinds of things which can be done with the help of e-commerce. So it describes those, and it describes a very important thing, which is the electronic payment system. Now, electronic payment system is something very unique. I think we have been using it, and we are many a times afraid of it, that whether it is going to be my account will be hacked or not. No. Very little chances if you take proper precaution. This kinds of things are very, very difficult to hack your account or those kinds of things, provided you take adequate security precautions. If you are careless, then anything can happen. That can happen when in any kind of a situation, whether you are doing electronic payment or you are doing physical payment. So if you are careless, anything can happen at any point of time. But in electronic payment system, if you are careful, the chances of that is the crime, that is cyber crimes, are much less. So some tips will be given to you on those particular aspect. Then security issues related to online transaction. So this unit also talks about various security issues which are very, very essential, because you are dealing with electronic payment, you are dealing with electronic commerce. So it is very important that you also learn about these kinds of information. Then block 2 also discusses about e-governance. Now, many projects which have been floated by government, okay, and they provide us a lot of information. We can do lots of things these days using online systems. So what this particular unit is going to talk about, like the concept of e-governance. Then it is going to give you objectives. What are the various objectives of e-governance and how it can be utilized in different places. And then it also talks about measures, e-governance system, what measures should be taken, what are the various issues should be covered as far as e-governance systems are concerned. And last but not the least, it talks about the infrastructure for e-governance. It is very important that when you are thinking about e-governance, I think some of you may be working in government or governmental organization, and you may be planning to do something of this kind. And if you are planning to do that, then you have to have that kind of an infrastructure, okay, issues related to that, right? So you should be familiar with those terms so that you can use as well as be one of the workforce who can think about, who can be part of the project which is implementing such kind of projects within an organization. Then we have unit 3 talks about the educational system. Now, education is education is one of the most important use of information and communication technology these days, and I think who else knows that you might be taking online course. CIT is online, so somewhere down the line the educational systems have been basically are utilizing the ICT technology. So within the educational system, we will be discussing about defining the role of ICT in education, then e-learning and its features, then e-learning media creation tools. So some of the tools, I mean, we may be using PowerPoint and other kinds of tools which are useful these days. So you can utilize those, and they will be very, very helpful. Then we can also go on to learn about a little bit of teleconferencing, and these days what we are doing is the video conferencing, which are very useful tools as far as communication of two-way communication of information is concerned. Okay. And then online examination and e-learning standards. The importance of e-learning standards are very, very high. After all, what you want, suppose you have developed a course or you have developed I think you can be information provider maybe after some time. So you have developed a course for one particular platform. Can I port it to other platforms? Right. So that is the issue. If you have developed everything within the standards, using the standards, the chances are that you will be able to do this particular activity. Block 2 and Unit 4 in this particular course, that is IT in Action, is Unit 4 is about medical systems. Now this is another important component where you should be learning like how ICT and IT can be utilized in medical systems. Many things have been done in the medical system. There are many devices which basically uses ICT. They actually are the tools. They are producing information in digital format, and that digital format or that digital information you would like to share among various I mean you may be sharing with doctor or the patient altogether who are supposed to have the conscious decision, taking conscious decision on it. Suppose you have your digital I mean let's say MRI report with you. Unfortunately, I mean let's say you don't have to go for MRI, but like suppose you have to go in for MRI and you have that particular report with you digitally available along with the films. You can even consult a doctor somewhere else who may not be sitting at the place where you are, right? He may be entirely maybe at some different medical location and might be advising you on those particular aspects. So that is the strength when we are moving towards internet and communication technologies, and this information technology helps us in using these kinds of technologies, right? So healthcare and internet has become one of the major important issue, and that will be discussed. Then computer based medical equipments will be discussed, and then it will be discussing about something like bioinformatics and medical informatics, which have become very, very important, like how information will be dealt with in bioinformatics and medical informatics. So this particular unit will be introducing to these particular concepts. Moving from block 2, let's move on to block 3. Now block 3 talks about information systems, right? And it explains the features of information systems. Information systems are primarily developed for organization, and they provide a lot of good decision making oriented information for the users. So that is why information systems are very, very important for organizations and for the growth of organization, for taking intelligent decisions for the organization, right? Even banking is maybe an information system in some sense, although it is slightly much more advanced part of it, but there are information systems in every organization. Inventory control, it can be a simple that is information system which is available in organizations, right? However, we won't be talking about information systems in detail in that particular context, but the process of development of information systems. So unit 1 defines the development of information systems, where it will be defining what information systems are. It will define the steps for development of information systems which are required. Then it will explain the maintenance of an information system. Now it is very, very important that information system keeps on changing as per the requirement of the organization. If they are not changing, the problem is going to be that they will be dead. So maintenance is very, very important in the case of information system, because any organization which does not change its processes is going to be in real trouble, because the rules, regulations as well as processes keeps on changing and becoming more and more efficient. So information system should change accordingly, and it should not be the hindrance in the growth of an organization in that particular sense, right. So this is going to be explaining the maintenance of an information system. Then you will be knowing about updating of an information system, how we will be updating it, and then tools for development of information system. So this is in nutshell, that is what you will be discussing in unit 1 of block 3, and then unit 2 is about management information systems. Now, management information systems basically define the management oriented information at different levels, operational levels, then the top CEO level, that may be strategic information, right. So, all those information at different levels, how a management information system will be able to provide, what kind of information it is going to provide at different levels, right. So, technically they start from a database systems, but those database systems are developed to a great extent so that they can provide information at different levels. So, this particular unit is going to define various components of management information systems. It will also define various factors for success of information systems, right. So, it is very, very important that information systems succeed. Why? Because ultimately people who are responsible for using the information system, right, they should be they should be comfortable while using those information system, and system should reflect their requirement. So, there are many issues which are related to success of information system, which primarily relates to the human technology, and this course, this unit will be discussing about the use of when information systems will be useful, success of information systems in that particular sense, and it also defines the limitations. So, everything has a limitation. So, you would like to know the limitations of a management information systems. So, please read this unit very, very carefully. It is going to give you a lot of information about the limitations of management information systems. Unit 3 of block 3 is about IT projects in India. Some of those IT projects now have been realized when this particular unit was written, and now some of these projects have already been running, right. And the common two projects which are being run by the government is NICNET and EARNET, and I think many of you would be using those technology, the networks many a times, like NICNET is providing a lot of information, lot of government websites, and we will be using NICNET oriented technologies. EARNET was for educational and research networks. So, if you are into a university system, and EARNET may provide you lot of access to digital libraries and other things. So, this unit is technically the third unit, basically details about the actual implementations, okay, but of ministry project related to information systems. Now, moving on from block 3 to block 4. Now, block 4 basically discusses practices in information technology. Now, that practices in information technologies are basically slightly advanced practices. So, unit 1 talks about fundamentals of embedded system. So, it defines the embedded operating system, what an embedded operating system is, how it is going to be different. It identifies basic requirements and its specification. So, you may be relating it to other embedded system technology which may come across to you. And it also describes the use of programming language in embedded systems. So, there are two programming languages which are used for development of embedded system. So, at least you can be you can be aware about those programming languages which are slightly different from other things. So, embedded system, whether they are real time systems or they are not real time systems. So, all those kinds of concepts as far as embedded systems are concerned, they will be discussed in this particular unit. Then unit 2 talks about a very important thing, new methods of communication with the computer. Well, new methods of computer communication actually is it's dealing with some old technology and some newer technologies. Now think in terms of, like, if I am interacting with the computer, there is a complete domain which is in existence, a syllabus, I mean a complete course which exists about this particular communication between human and computer, right. This is basically called the human computer interaction, or HCI. So it basically this unit will be giving you some basic details about this particular concept, human computer interaction. So it will be interface basically. So basics of human computer interface will be talked here, not interaction in that particular sense, but interaction is definitely there, right. It lists basic kind of input and output devices. It will be telling you about some of the basic input output devices. Then it will be providing information about menu, push button, radio button, check boxes. Those are the common terms which are utilized in most Windows of the day, right, most Windows technologies which we use today. So it will be talking about all those input output buttons kind of a thing. So you can come to know about it. So terminology is very, very important for learning newer things. So it will be introducing you with the terminology of these kinds of things. And then it will also be talking about some of the futures methods as far as human computer interaction is concerned. So this is the way this unit 2 will be focusing on. And then we will be going on to discuss in unit 3 in block 4 is about computer vision. So computer vision is a very interesting domain these days, right. It defines the term computer vision, basically lists the goals, application and advantages of computer vision, and defines technical challenges of computer vision. So computer vision is basically, if you want to work out, like suppose these days many governmental agencies are watching from the satellite, if there is a development in a particular unauthorized development in some areas, right, some construction, unauthorized construction is going on. Now that can be checked, right, that can be checked with the help of computer vision. So what exactly will be required? It will be required to know whether there is a change, right, there is a change in the place, some changes has been made somewhere. Okay, now that needs some processing of the data. So there is pictures which are getting produced all the time by the satellite, but then it will require a lot of processing of data to determine whether some new construction has come or not. So that is what is the computer vision, and it is very, very important in today's parlance, and many more applications are there. So let's study this particular block for unit 3 and you will come to know about it. So in a nutshell, if I can put this particular course, this is a very important course about information technology. It covers the whole gambit of information technology, in a sense that it takes you from basics of information technology and brings you till some important concepts of information technology like computer vision. So learn about this particular, from this particular course, and I'm sure that you will be getting a lot of information from this particular course. Thank you for being with me as far as today's session is concerned. We will be doing much more in future sessions. We are having 40 sessions in this particular course, including this one. So we have 39 more sessions for you, which will be useful for you in learning many more things. However, please don't forget, you got to study from the material. If you don't study from the material, then you will be losing out on certain things. And in addition, you must do all the assignments, which we will be floating from time to time. Thanks for once again. Thank you. Bye for now.